listen to the song.
Welcome back to the Wolf's Den. My name is Mark Toby. My guest today is Tony Doherty. We're going to pick back up from where we left off. Tony, can you tell me about what the differences are between running Doherty's versus running the Arnold Classic?
Well, major differences because they're completely different companies, different budgets, different realities. Completely different. There's no similarities at all.
So how does one go from running 6 gyms to then just being launched into the event space? I mean, are there similar skills and tools that you've accumulated? How did you just run such a big event? I mean, it'd be like learning a whole different
well, it grew,
school
Mark.
set.
It grew, and I think that's what people have to realise. You don't just go out and run a huge gym, and you don't just go out and run a huge event like an Arnold Sports Festival. I started running bodybuilding shows back in the late 80s, and that grew, as I said earlier, into running the first time ever Australia's pro show. And then that grew into a Pro-Am, and then that grew into a small expo, and the small expo grew into a bigger expo. So I just learned along the way, developed the skills that I needed. But then when it went from being FitX Sport and Fitness Expo into the Arnold Sports Expo, it changed dramatically because there were so many more factors with publicity and working with the world's most famous person. And then personally, the way it affected me most is probably with the travel, because before I could go away once a year and still be successful as a bodybuilding or a expo promoter, but now I travel with Arnold at least 6 times a year, sometimes more. Plus, for me to do my research, I've been to every fitness expo in the world, from FIBO to Body Power around the world, to shows in India and China and everywhere. So the last 5 years, the biggest thing that's changed is the travel. But comparing the gym and the Arnold, it's completely different. I do have a couple of staff that swing between the two with graphics, and my IT guy and my graphics girl both sort of work on both businesses, but the others are just worlds apart.
So do you still run Doherty's, or do you have someone run majority of Doherty's? Is that kind of, handball to...
When I say I don't run it, I'm still kind of hands-on. So I manage my managers. And I've got one particular guy, Andrew Iskander, who runs effectively 3 of them. As a manager, he goes 2 days a week at each one out of the 3. And I meet with him 2-3 times a week for a good hour, where we sit down and go through a little bit of planning, a little bit of strategy. Mostly for me, it's yes, and it's encouragement. But then if I feel that they're going the wrong way with the brand or whatever, then I'll just say, no, that's not the way I want to go, and this is why. And then just with the hiring, as I said earlier, I'm just getting a little bit more hands-on on who we allow into the organisation, because they've got to understand what we are and what we do. And then with the growth of the business, I'm looking to bring someone on next to help me to expand the licence and franchise side of it, because that's a different person than someone that's hands-on running a gym. But so I'm still pretty hands-on. I don't get round to all of them as much as I'd like. And people say, what would you like if you wish for one more thing? It'd be like 28 hours in a day and 8 days in a week, because I just can't fit this shit in. This is the biggest problem I've got. I never have a day off. I just go.
And discussing just the structure of your teams, I mean, how big is the team for Doherty's versus the team for the Arnold Classic?
Well, you can't compare, because each of the gyms got about 10 employees. There's 7 gyms, so there's like 70 or 80 with the part-timers with Doherty's, and the Arnold team is 6. So it's a very tight-knit team, but they do an extraordinary job, because we don't have the budget some of the big expos have. So a comparable expo in Australia might have 20 people working on it full-time. We've got 6. So they're really committed. They're really married to the job. But it's a good role. And I think what I've probably found with the popularity of my brands with both of them is, if I advertise a position, I've got a line a mile long of people wanting to be part of it. And then once you sift through them and work out who's in it for the right reason, then you've got a line half a mile long. So we do get to sort of handpick the people that come in, and we're getting better at that all the time. But that's also something you don't just get good at. You got to.
So the hardest thing about, I suppose, running the Arnolds is the travel personally, but I suppose on a professional...
No, that's not the hardest thing at all, no.
What do you think the hardest thing is on running
hardest thing's meeting the budget, because it costs... this year will be like 2.4 million to put on, and we're not funded at all. So I start with a blank slate and I go, shit, how are we going to do that? Every year I'm like, it's a nightmare. Because the convention centre, for example, cost me $700,000 to rent for a weekend.
Wow.
I know, right? And you get 4 fucking walls and beep, and the roof, and that's it. Like there's no carpet, there's no power. They're so rude, they turn the power meter on, they charge me an extra 10% and then take the power out of the extra 10% and give me the balance back. So you don't even get power. 700 grand. You don't get a freaking light. It's hideous. Then if I want to sell food there, I have a loss of revenue fee. Well, so you're affecting our canteen sales, and you're going to give us another 20, 30. It's crazy. It's the most one-sided thing in the world. Like last year on carpet squares, to hire carpet, I spent $60,000 on carpet hire. You know, and Janet, I know you always compete. That stage that I built, you know, that's nearly $50,000 to rent the stage and lights and the rigging to do that. And I've got 3 stages. You know, and in the strongman area where I have the grandstands up both sides, there's $17,000 each side. You know, to rent. And no one could see this. No one could see what goes into it. So this is the biggest challenge, is the budget. No shit. You know, I've got to sell all that space and raise all the sponsorship money and then get the tickets on sale. And thank God for the VIP ticket people, because they buy their tickets early and really help me to put the deposit down on the venue. But even that's a fight, because when you hire a venue like that from a government agency, they want 30% up front. So but I haven't sold any tickets. Okay, we'll rent it to someone else. So that's the challenge.
So putting it up and the risk that people are going to come in and spend money when they're in there. Yeah.
You know, there's been years, honestly, I haven't drawn a wage from it, where I've worked 365 days straight and not got remunerated 1 cent. So it's not like I do it for the money, it's like I love it. But the hardest thing is making it work, making it fit. And the problem is it gets bigger, it doesn't get smaller. So just when I've got it figured out, I change it. So it's, oh man, you don't want to be in here sometimes, I tell you. You don't want to be in there. Some days I just go, what the hell is wrong with you? What have you done, man, you know? And so, just when I get it right, I reinvent it. Oh, great. So this year, because it's our 5th year, we've completely redone the floor plan. So I've moved everything around. I've come up with, I think it's genius, and it's going to work. But, you know, they've got to make it work. So that's the hardest bit. The travel was the best bit, man. I love it. I mean, getting to travel with your idol and go to some of the most amazing places in the world and eat at the best restaurants and to do some of the most incredible things. I mean, some of the experience I've had with Arnold, like the first year we had the Arnold here, it was on the same weekend as the Grand Prix. And the same politicians that won't give us a cent towards it or recognise the fact. I went and had an economic impact study done, hoping that would open some doors, and it is now, 5 years later. And we put $23 million into Victoria's economy in 1 weekend, proven and audited. Right, and there's events that they fund that put half that much in, that they lose money on, and they wouldn't even talk to us. So the first year, so the Premier, Daniel Andrews, John Aaron, the Minister for Sport, the Prime Minister, all there at the Grand Prix. The same guys that wouldn't talk to me, trying to get a selfie with Arnold, right? And we went into the race director's room, and I'd worded him up. He goes, so you guys are the ones that won't even answer his emails, right? And just, right? And it was fantastic. But one of the best memories, we went out to the start of the race, and you know, all the cars are getting onto the grid, and the race director, whose name's Pasquale, who worked for Eccleston, comes out and he goes, you guys just wait there, right? To the Premier, the Minister of Sport, Prime Minister, Arnold, Tony, come with me. Excuse me. And we went onto the grid. And we're there when they're starting the engines of the car, and they bring out this dry ice to put under the engine so the cars don't explode. And we met, you know, Ricardo and the guy that won the race, and Arnold was up on the podium doing the speeches, and I was there on the podium next to them. And we met Niki Lauda, who's the Austrian guy that caught fire in the 80s and had selfies with him, all this kind of thing. And this is my friend Tony, you know, and TV interview. It was crazy, you know, being broadcast to 400 million people around the world. On the podium of the Grand Prix, I'm like, I couldn't have thought this shit up. And then conversely, that'd be one of my greatest experiences. Also this year, we're in Africa. And we went to, we did the Arnold Youth Festival in a part of Johannesburg called Alexandra, which is, so in Brazil we have favelas, you know what they are? It's the slums. In India they're called slums. In Africa they're called townships. So there's a place, let's say the size of Richmond, with 1.1 million people living in these little tin shacks. Right, and half of them are kids. So we put on this activation called the Arnold Youth Festival, where we got 16 sports to do free sport for kids to come and try. And we've got some facilities right next to the township, and they were doing soccer and rugby and baseball and netball and basketball and martial arts, and we had another room with 300 kids playing chess, all these different things. And the deal was, if you're a kid from the township, and we're trying to get you into sport and away from drugs and gangs, because there's a massive violent problem there, that if you come and try a sport, you get a free Arnold t-shirt, and a bottle of water, and a free meal. We had 14,000 kids show up. Can you imagine? 14,000 little black kids with hope in their eyes. And you look down, half of them not wearing any shoes. Not because of the weather, because they haven't got any shoes. You know, and I said, wow, they're waiting 2.5 hours for their meal because we ran out of food. In fact, we had to share it between the 5 ladies in the community that did catering, because if one of them had got it, the other ones might have killed them. No shit. So we had to, there was all the politics of that our partners had to navigate. And then they had these 5 stations where they could come and get, it was like a big stew, and their carbs was maize, because rice is too expensive. Maize, it's like a cornstarchy thing with this stew. I don't know what was in it. Right, these kids lined up 2-3 hours, and when I got to the bottom of it, it's because most of them have never had 2 meals in one day in their whole life. They eat once a day and they've got no shoes, and they rock up, yeah, the free t-shirt was good, but wow, free food? You know, it was one of the most heart-wrenching and amazing and emotional things I've ever been involved with, just as good as being in a helicopter or being on the grid of a Grand Prix, because you look down at these little kids who are trying sport perhaps for the first time, whose parents are never going to push them into that, who might, you just do the numbers. You know, if 10% of them get through, that's 1,400 lives we changed. If 1% get through, that's 140 kids that might have a good life because we were there. You know, so these kind of things are sometimes the highlights. It's not always the flash shit, you know? So for me, the travel, Mark, I could talk to you guys about travel and places all day long. It's really, really impacted me and changed my point of view, and it's helped me to, like a lot of time with my real talk, people say, where do you get all this stuff from? Okay, because I've seen stuff that we haven't seen here. We live in this land of opportunity, and I see this sense of entitlement we have here. Well, people have this ability to be sad and depressed and feeling bad. Now, I understand some people get clinical depression. That's terrible. But most people get situational depression because they feel sorry for themselves and they overthink shit. You get born in China or India. Let's go to India. I went into a slum in Mumbai. My God, it was the most life-changing years ago. I had this driver at a 7-star hotel. He said, anything you want to see, temples or the shit? And I go, can we go into a slum? I just want to, if no one would be offended. He goes, yeah. He goes, it's a really good slum just around the corner. Anyway, long story short, those people in those slums, when they're 13 or 14, they get pulled out of school and say, hey, Mark, we got you a job. You're going to work in a factory. It's only 2 hours from here or 3 hours from here. 7 days a week, no 4 weeks holiday, no holiday pay, no superannuation, no bullshit. If you go and show up for work every single day and never have a sickie, you can eat for the next 50 years. That's your life, that's your choice, there's no way out. And I said to my driver, he said, I live in a slum about 40 minutes from here. It's a really good slum. We've got running water, we've got power. You know, I said, how many rooms in your thing? He goes, 1, 3 kids. And I said, you've got a good job at a 7-star hotel. If you, he was at the Taj Palace. I said, if you, and he was immaculate, his gloves were the whitest gloves, like, and they're doing this in gutters and shit. Anyway, I said, if you, and I looked at this worst building I've ever seen in my life. I go, if you save up really well, you're going to get a $100 tip today, right? Can you live in a place like that one day? And he just broke out laughing, goes, no, not in 10 lifetimes. He goes, my parents lived in the slum, I'm in the slum, my kids will always live in the slum. We can never get out of there. But because I work so hard, my kids get to go to a better school. And he lit up like this. And he told me this story how his 3 little boys, 7, 8 and 9, walked half an hour to get to the dirt road, to get on the bus, to go 2.5 hours. On a bus without their mum, no 4-wheel drive out the front of the school, beep, beep, you know. And then 2.5 hours to come home on the bus. So they're gone like 12, 14, 15 hours a day to go to a better school, to have an opportunity, not even to get out of a slum, but to get a better job than driving a car or working in a factory. See what I'm saying? They don't have a choice. So I can say to you guys, believe in yourself, make a plan, have a vision, you can do it. You get born in a shithole, dream all you want, you're fucked. And this is what travel's taught me. I've been to places in China where people have come in from the villages and been bussed in. There's cities in China where they've built cities. There's a city not far from Shanghai, they've built for 5 million people, it's not even open yet. It's got hospitals and schools and factories and supermarkets, and it's got a fence around it. so that when Shanghai finally spills over, they're just going to get 5 million people and go, you don't live there anymore, you live here. And they'll get bussed there, and that's that. You know, and I see this stuff, and I see these poor little kids who all they've got is hope. And I come back here and I thought, fucking phone, ran out of batteries.
What are 3 places that you would say, you know, absolutely, you know, anyone who's watching this, if you go there, you won't come back the same person? That have been like real special places that you think?
Well, depends what you're going for. If it's for experience and food and culture and, you know, richness and a contrast, I'd say Brazil. Because Brazil, you've got the favelas, but you've got some of the best food in the world. You've got the most beautiful people with amazing character and personality and drive, and where if they work hard, they can get it. And they're one of the hardest working races in the world. So I'd say Brazil would be on right up there. You know, a lot of my business partners, people who have done like India, they're like, oh, it's terrible. So every time I've been there, like 4 or 5 times, every time I've come back really enriched. You know, because you just see stuff. When I went into that slum I was telling you about in Mumbai, the thing I took out of it is that they're happy. The most people are not miserable. They're kind of honoured that I went in there and just want to make friends and smile, and the kids were happy. Kids had this thing the size of your gym on a dirt thing, and they'd made a cricket ball out of tape and they had a stick. And that was it. That was all their toys put together. And they're playing this thing and they're all happy and they're laughing. And they appreciated what they had. And so I think India is a really enriching place to visit, just to change the way you look. 3rd one, oh man. I don't know, I love history and I love nature. I just love everything. You know, I'm really fortunate because I see the good, or find something good in everything. There's not one single place in the world I've been that I didn't like. I'm like, yeah, but they got this. Yeah, it's a shithole, but they got that. So I always find something. So I don't know, man. I don't think the US is amazing, but it's like 50 different countries. It's so big. It's like Australia and more, because like here, you've got to go 3 days to see something. It's like that there, but there's a whole lot of states in between. And of course, Europe. You know, the history of the old castles and the, you know, seeing things 1,000 years old and understanding that these guys were building these incredible architectural miracles 1,000 years before computers were invented, or anything digital that we couldn't build today that is still standing. So I love that kind of thing. I was in Prague last year. I was in Portugal and Spain and Holland, and I've really been fortunate to go to so many places. I don't think I can pick a 3rd one. But I think as Australians, we don't know enough about South America. Because in school, right, we learn about US, we learn about Europe. Starting to learn a little bit about Asia, but South America, well, there is a South America? Okay, that's just so rich in history. And oh man, I don't even think I'll give you my top 10. I think
Just go travel everywhere.
Go see the world, man.
Forget about PT, just go travel, that's it.
Well, every chance you get, seriously. I've had calls where they go, hey, there's an opportunity to do something in Shanghai, but you've got to be there this weekend. I just go, I'll be there. I don't even know how I'm going to get there, I just get there. You know, and Arnold's done that to me a couple of times. And once was for a movie premiere for Genesis, Terminator, in Shanghai, for the Asian premiere. I didn't know why he wanted me there. We went to look at some venues, but it turned out to be that. It was a great opportunity. We had a fantastic time. You know, and I've had times where you talk about the putting yourself in the right position to succeed, where someone said to me, hey, this is happening in the bodybuilding world, but you need to be a meeting in Pittsburgh or in Las Vegas or in Atlanta next weekend. And I've flown for a single meeting. I flew to have a meeting once with Arnold for an hour to LA to have a meeting, and came home again, didn't tell anyone. Just WIT, baby, whatever it takes. WIT, whatever it takes. You can't stop and go, oh, but that doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense.
So
sorry.
I was just going to get inside the head of Tony Doherty a little bit more. So you've brought out for now 20 years the best strongmen, the best bodybuilders, you know, basically celebrities. It's quite the crown to wear as promoter. I mean, I imagine there's amazing pressure to get it right from the athletes involved, but also amazing pressure to get it right from the fans who demand their money's worth. How does one handle that pressure? How does one handle that without getting, you know, overwhelmed and wanting to rip out their hair?
Well, you do your best, you know, and I think anyone that knows me and follows my thing, or any kind of fans I've developed over the years, just know I'm all in, or I'm not in at all. So I give it my 100% best. And like with the pro show, some years the lineups have been better than other years. And when I have a poor lineup, I don't work any less. In fact, I work harder. Just that, for example, this year's Arnold Classic was unbelievable. because it was the 30th year anniversary in Columbus. We were a week later. We couldn't fail. We're the best lineup ever. The year before was shit. It was terrible. So then I just find an angle, find a way. So that particular year I thought, okay, well, we're not going to get the best guys in the world, so we'll double the amount of figure girls, we'll double the amount of bikini girls, we'll double the amount of strongmen, and bring in more people. We'll bring in some celebrities we wouldn't have got, you know, and just find a way, just find, you know, it's like breaking through a wall. If you just stand there and just try and go through the same spot, you're just going to get a headache. Imagine you just get a brick wall and you know, I'm going to bust this open with my head and just do the same thing every day. Do you think you're going to bust through? No, of course not. But if you go sideways, you go left, you go right, you go left, you go right until you find a crack. And then you dig and you start scratching and then you create a space and you pull a brick out your way. Well, it's like that with promoting. You don't stop, man. You just, if you try as hard as you can, and if something doesn't come off, you go, okay, what now? And you think laterally and you think big and you think, okay, but what else can I do? And I always find a way. So I love the pressure. I don't feel like there's incredible pressure because I know I give it my all. You know, I think it'd be worse if I knew that I was half-assed about something, or I failed because I was lazy, or I failed because I didn't work 100 days straight, or I failed because I, you know, went partying all the time. No, man, I just work. So I just give it my all. The athletes, I've got so much credibility that I only could have dreamed of with the professional athletes in a number of sports across the world. I've been a huge influence now in the direction of pro bodybuilding around the world. I'm kind of, you know, in that upper echelon of the whole sport. And as far as Arnold's concerned, that's the biggest pressure because he always says, him and Jim Lorimer, one very specific demand, better than your previous best. You know, you can't sit still. You can't just go, okay, well, I'll just dish that up again. No. So that's probably the pressure, is just to keep doing better. And especially when you do well, you go, okay, well, now it's going to be hard to beat because we had a bit of a lucky year. You know, so you can't just look at the athletes, you look at the big picture of how many people you get and how much publicity you get, how many lives you affect, how many different experiences you do, how many sports you add. You know, this year, for example, with the Arnold Sports Festival, we got in front of the, our charity partner was the Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday Appeal, which got me in front of the Run for the Kids. And that had like 25,000 people doing a fun run on the Sunday of the Arnold. So, you know, I fought like hell to get a meeting with them. I got a meeting with them and I said, you guys can come under our umbrella and be one of our activities. They're like, we don't, you know, we're not going under anyone. I said, no, we're not going to tell you how to run for kids. We're going to tell you where to start and stop and what road closures to do, and nothing. And so all your athletes after the race can come into the Arnold for free. I'll give them a wristband and I'll bring Arnold to start the race and fire the horn or the pistol or whatever it is if you become part of us, because it's a fitness crusade. And we want to say we had so many tens of thousands of people involved in activity in Melbourne for the weekend. And if you work with us, you can be a part of that. And you can join in with our publicity that we get and all the cameras. I'll bring everyone to the race because Arnold's going to be there. So I've got my publicist in front of them. And he said, this is going to be amazing. And we've got more publicity for their race than they've ever had, which raised in turn more money for the Children's Hospital. So always just find a way, but we added that. You know, so I just think, I don't know, just be an opportunist. Yeah, man, just like, I don't stop thinking. It's funny, I'm just going to digress, but, and I get this a lot with my real talk, and I try and help people, inspire people. And one of the questions I get all the time is people are a bit lost. And some of us are, all of you, everyone is, right? But some people are more lost than others. Oh, you know, I really want more out of my life, but I don't know what it is. I haven't found my thing yet. How do you know when you found your thing? And it's a really simple answer. When you find something that keeps you awake at night, and wakes you up in the morning and makes you forget to eat and makes you obsessed and crazy, you found your thing. Right? So I'm one of those people who found their thing. So every single day, even without the Arnold stuff, even without the expos, I get to go to the gym every day. I'm a gym guy, I love it. Every single morning. Even when I was married, she'd say, you can't wait to get to the gym, can you? I can't wait. I love it. The hardest thing for me is to leave at night. Oh, I'll go in a minute. Oh, so-and-so walked in. Because it's my passion. And I think in life you've got to find three things: passion, vision, action. Passion means something that keeps you awake at night. Write this one down: passion, vision, action. The three key words, Mark. I've said this to you before. So important. You can't succeed without these three things. Passion means that thing, right? Where it gives you butterflies, it makes you crazy, it keeps you awake at night, wakes you up in the morning. That's passion. But vision means you've got to be a little realistic, and you've got to say, okay, well, how's this going to work, and what's my plan, and what's What's my point of difference and what's my vision to make this? Because everyone wants to own a studio or a personal trainer, but they've got no idea. For example, I say to people, imagine I had a passion for motor cars. I say, I'm going to be the next big thing after Tesla. I'm going to bring out a car brand. Well, I better have a vision for that because they've got billions and I don't. So how am I going to reinvent cars with no money? Right? So you can be crazy about cars, but you're probably not going to be that guy. So vision means just harnessing that back a little bit and working it out. And action means when are you going to take action? It doesn't mean when are you going to open your studio, when are you going to take on the world, or when are you going to become an actor. It means what are you willing to do today? If you're serious about your passion and vision, then what's your action? Your action is there's 18 hours a day that you're awake. Most people work 8, maybe 10 hours if you're pushing yourself. That leaves 8 hours to do what I said before, to get your phone out and Google shit and study things and watch successful people and go to seminars and to learn and to read and to study and to do your investigation, do your due diligence of that industry you want to get into. And this is why, for example, I've become obsessed with Instagram. I study it more than I study anything at school. If I'm going to travel, I'll study. If I'm going to do a fitness expo, I learn so much more about it than what I need to know, so I'm in a position to win. Right? And people say, oh, action, I can't start my thing because I don't have the money or the space or the time. Okay, so sit around and watch movies and, play on your phone and gossip. Watch the Kardashians. That's going to get you ahead. Instead, watch Gary Vee or watch someone who's just got some answers and some inspiring shit and some great messages. So that's what I mean by action. It means if you guys are serious about doing something for yourself, go home and start today. Think, oh, Monday morning I'll start my diet. Well, you're going to go eat chips? Like, it's crazy. When you break it down and understand the psychology of what we do to self-sabotage, it's a reason most people fail.
That's actually a great segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which was when you do start on that path, and I know I certainly have copped it a fair bit, as I'm sure you have as well, but when you do start on that path and you've got that idea and you start building it and you become even a little bit successful at it, it does attract a certain amount of negativity and haters. And this is the thing that I find, and it used to affect me a lot more than obviously it does now. Now it's just waters off a duck's back. But in consulting with a lot of trainers from all over, one of their biggest problems and their biggest hurdles to overcome is once they put themselves out there, they become successful, is the cheap shots. And I think, I don't want to say it's obviously it's only the fitness industry or this kind of thing, but I think the fitness industry in a way has a certain way of doing it to their own that is probably a little bit unique than other industries. We seem to be very good as a fitness industry to tear each other down rather than build each other up. What's been your experience, and I suppose, how do you handle it?
My experience has been it's all industries. You know guys in the automotive industry, and they're spray painters, and they tear other spray painters down. It's universal. It's just we're in this, we think it's all about us. It's not. So how do I deal about it? And it's not to put you down, it's just to say, just open your mind up. It's a universal thing. It's just, it's just people. People want what they can't, they want what they can't have, And they see someone else being successful, so their fallback is to, oh, he got lucky, or he's a prick, or he's a smart ass, or whatever. So how do I deal with it? I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I don't respond to anyone. Never, ever should you not do something because of what somebody else thinks. This is what it breaks down to. There's 3 things that will stop you from succeeding. Self-doubt, fear of failure, and the big one, worrying about what people think. Now, if people are taking cheap shots at you, it means you're doing something right. You can't make everyone happy. And the people that you worry about that are taking the cheap shots don't like you. They want you to fail. And when you do, I said earlier, they're going to say, I told you so. And when you win, they're going to go, oh yeah, but he got lucky. It's only because he met Arnold. It's only because he met Tony. It's only because they went to Wolfpack. People like that, why would you respond to their opinion or let alone adjust your path because of what somebody else thinks? So a cheap shot to me is a kind of the lowest form of flattery. Okay, you bother talking about me means you're obsessed with me. It's like people who watch my page and leave some dumb comment. I'm like, well, why are you even watching? I don't follow anyone I don't like. That's retarded. Why would you follow someone you don't like and then wait for your moment to give them a cheap shot? You fuckwit? Like, really? Would you do that in real life? Would you come up and say that, or you're as tough as your phone? It's crazy. Excuse me for swearing, but you need to sometimes, because this is the sort of behaviour that we're conditioned to believe is important. It's not. So I'm going to go beyond anything we say, oh, now it's water off a duck's back. Don't give them oxygen. Don't respond. If I get a dumb comment, delete. Block. If it's weird, block. If it's just dumb, delete. Don't respond, because once you respond, and once even if somebody attacks you, you start shooting back at them, sending messages, throwing bombs back at them, then you're just the same as them. And the thing about someone who doesn't like you or someone who doesn't want to succeed is the most hurtful thing is to not give them any oxygen. It's just pretend they don't exist. Right? No oxygen means no response. Someone says, oh, what about so-and-so? So, oh, I don't know, she's doing his thing. Next. Don't even talk about them. Give them nothing. It drives them nuts, right? But then don't do stuff to prove people wrong. Do it to prove yourself right, because they don't count anyway. So, Mark, I've become better and better and better at it. I used to be, I wanted to fight everyone. Now I'm just like, you know what? I'm kind of sad for them.
When did you transition from that? When did you go from fighting Tony, fisticuffs, to Zen like Tony?
It's been a work in progress, you know. Certainly when the Arnold thing happened, I knew I had to become a very responsible adult and not put myself in a position where I could be in any kind of trouble. Probably, I don't know, there's not really one moment. I guess having kids too quieted me down a lot. You know, as the kids started to grow up, I thought, I don't want to be setting a bad example. It's not that I was super violent, but back in the early days with the gyms, it was a pretty tough sort of space, and people would test me out and I'd respond effectively. And then you start putting cameras in and everything's online. Things have changed. But I am a lot more Zen person now, because I think the travel's done it. Just accepting the world as it is and people as they are, and accepting if someone's got a problem with me, that's their problem. It's not my problem. And caring about, this is what I've got to get to you to understand. Why would you care about what somebody else thinks? Because it's nothing to do with you. It's actually none of your business. If somebody's focusing on you, and sending hateful messages or saying dumb shit or whatever about you, that's got nothing to do with you. Unless you're asked, who? They don't count. They're not going to come here and spend money. They're not going to come here and support you and your business. They're not going to come and buy a drink. So why would you care what they think? I care what my customers think. I care what my family thinks. I care what the people that I love think. If I hurt one of them, that's a different story. But if it's just someone who's just throwing bombs from afar, next. And what I've found, this is a funny thing, since I've sort of become more well-known or a little bit celebrity status or whatever with the Arnold stuff, I've had people that have supported me all through my life who've then jumped off and became like enemies, like, wow. So you're happy for me to be this big, but anything above that is actually hurtful to you, and now you're going to become this absolutely obsessed and centered with making me fail. I've had some of that. Okay, I'm not going to stop. I don't really care. All my life people told me that I should, calm down, I don't do this. My favourite was people say, oh, you're obsessed. Hell yeah. I've met some really successful people with meeting and working with Arnold and some of the celebrities and actors and elite athletes that I've met. Guess what? Guess what they all got in common? They're all obsessed. I know one, highly successful person that hasn't got that about them. It's what it takes. It's okay. Just we're told, don't be obsessed. That's obsessive. Yeah, no shit.
So on that, so I was just in a moment processing what you were saying.
I like that. Just process.
We have some students in the room, students watching. They start a business. They again become successful. They're down the road. They might have a couple of staff members working for them. You've got 6 gyms. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger as your business partner. You've got the IFBB Pro League. They get overwhelmed with managing 2 staff in their sessions. There's a lot of noise, I'd imagine, in your life. People literally pulling you in every direction that you could probably, and all over the globe, physically as well, not just mentally. What tips would you give to those who are getting overwhelmed and find themselves, pulling out their hair?
Oh man, just don't overthink it. Just live in the moment and just do what you do. Sometimes I get like a film crew following me, or someone will like want to ghost me for a day and just come follow me around. And that's when I feel it, when I see somebody else getting manic about my being manic. Look, you're okay? You get pulled in all directions. You go, yeah. Like it was, I don't know, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I had meetings every single hour, and I did a podcast. There was a guy, I didn't even know him. I always say yes to podcasts, why not? Might affect one person. There was a guy who was doing a program on mental health. He was a really nice young man, and he got into personal training because he watched my TV show called Muscle TV. And I'd been like his idol all these years, and I didn't know that when he reached out. So this was this monumental moment for him to come and do this podcast. And it was all about exercise and the value for mental health and stuff. And I got so much out of it, you know, by giving. And because of that one, I didn't get to eat. And then I had another meeting, and I took all my food to work. It was like 3 o'clock. I'm like, shit. I trained on an empty stomach this morning. I had a bowl of oatmeal, and I've had like 9 meetings and a podcast since 3 o'clock. And I'm actually lightheaded. And I'm like, that's, you know, anyone watching that would go, that's crazy. But this is just a normal day. And when you strive for things and you take on more and more tasks, one, you've got to get more organised. Like I've just put on a PA for the first time ever. Like my dad, my accountant, everyone's supposed to say, you need to get an assistant. Like, you're crazy. Because I say yes. I say no when I need to say no. But if someone just needs a chop out, I'm like you call. Hey, can I come over and see you 10 o'clock Tuesday? Yeah, come. I don't write it down. And then someone says, oh, can you be somewhere 10 o'clock Tuesday? Sounds like a plan. and then 3 people will rock up at once, and the person on the desk will come, and there's 3 people all said they've got a 10 o'clock appointment with them. Shit. I did. So I got a PA, and she's amazing. She runs my diary more than anything else. So do that, be organised. But you've got to choose what you want to do. So what I'm doing now, I'm finding as I get busier, I get busier. So now I've got 3 or 4 other projects, and my general manager who runs all the Arnold stuff and a little bit with the gyms, who was formerly my producer for the TV show, he's known me for a long, long time, and he's identified my strengths and weaknesses very, very well. So it's been very helpful to have an objective person, you know, that can sort of point that out. And he said to me a few years ago, he goes, you're no good unless you've got some manic impossible challenge in front of you. Like as soon as you achieve one thing, you're looking for another thing. And I know that. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's why the Arnold's been good for me, because it's like so massive every year. It curbs it. But I'm doing so you talk about the gyms and the pro league stuff, so all the competitions around Australia. I think I'm running over 20 shows this year around Australia, and you know, posing clinics and all that sort of thing as a whole. And that's another team of staff I've got working full time on that. And then there's my personal stuff. So with my Relentless Momentum talks, and I'm writing a stage show so you've been to the Relentless, the early stage. So phase 2 of that's going to be a bigger thing. Like we're talking a little bit about what you're doing earlier. We're going to go to a bigger audience. It's going to cost them less, but to take it to masses. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on a book, and I'm working on a doco, and a couple of other things, and a new podcast I'm starting. So I've turned 10 businesses into 15 new challenges, and spreading myself thinner and thinner. I just figure, you know, if I wasn't capable of doing it, I wouldn't have thought it up in the first place. So to anyone out there that's struggling with balance and all that, just find something you love doing, and it's not it's nothing to me. As I said, I just wish I had 28 hours in a day, and I wish there was a pill you could take on an operation you could have so you never had to sleep again. I'd be the first one, man. Do you want a guinea pig? Start with me.
So I want to give the audience as much of you as possible, and the way I figured to do that is to play the 1-word game. So if you're not familiar with the 1-word game, basically I'm going to give you a word, and you're going to give me a 1, max maybe 2 to 3 word response. So for example, if I was to say legs, someone might say squats, right? So it's a word association game. So you ready to play? You ready?
Yeah.
All right, Australian bodybuilders.
Go to the next one, so I wasn't ready.
Doherty's brand.
Home away from home.
The Weekends.
No such thing.
The greatest bodybuilder of all time.
Ronnie Coleman.
Greatest sports person of all time.
Muhammad Ali.
Millennials.
Give him a chance.
Big box gyms.
Nothing. Not in my world.
Biggest supplement lie.
Take this and you'll look like me.
Bodybuilding magazines.
Dead, finished, goodbye.
The fitness industry.
Amazing, wonderful, growing.
Personal trainers.
Good and bad.
Favorite color.
Couldn't give a fuck.
Good answer. I was expecting like black or steel, metallic. But we'll go with couldn't give a fuck. I hope you got that on camera, right? Respected.
I think it's a little gay to have a favourite colour as a dude.
Respected colleague or peer.
Respected colleague or peer. Jim Mannion.
Favorite motorcycle.
Chopper.
Something that pisses you off.
People that chew loudly.
We've got another one of those in class at the moment, yeah. Something that you love.
Life.
Favourite pastime?
Favourite pastime? Oh, we've been through all of that. Favourite, what's my favourite part? That's a good question.
Training. See, I know.
Training.
There you go.
Lifting shit.
A business you like shopping at?
None. Okay. There's this one shop, sorry, long story, quick answer, Barbour. It's a men's clothing shop from London that's in South Africa. And whenever I go there, I get enough clothes for a year.
Suits or?
No, I've got a suit maker. No, it's just like, just cool shit.
A book to read?
Shantaram.
And finally, favourite Arnold movie?
Terminator 2.
Oh, nice one. They say that, just to I suppose wrap up a few more questions, but they say that you become the product of the 5 closest people to you. Now, it really doesn't get much bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger in terms of that. So, one, is that saying true? And 2, how has your relationship with Arnold affected you on a personal level?
I think it's true to a point. When you've got so many worlds colliding like I do have, there's not really 5 people, because there's 5 people in each world. So I've got like 10 worlds going on. But the Arnold world has impacted me enormously. Being like someone who always had a lot of self-belief and big dreams to start with, when that comes to fruition and your idol becomes your friend, that's like the biggest injection of confidence and belief that you could ever have. So that's affected me enormously. It's made me even more believe I can do anything and be anything. And personally, he's been such a great mentor with business, with life, with dealing with shit, with personal stuff, and just seeing how to act at that next level. So when you've just got like a gym or you just work in a shop or something, you can be one way. And then as you become more of a leader, you become a certain way. So when I see the greatest leader that I've ever met, then that rubs off on me. And I start seeing traits in him. I think, okay, I need to be more of that. So he's taught me, without trying to be a teacher, he's taught me so much just by being in his presence. Like, he's the most curious person you could ever meet. So when we go, we always ask people questions. It can be a driver, it can be a chef, it can be in an Uber. And he genuinely asks people, where are you from? What's your background? How did you get here? And then remembers it and tells a story later on that night or whatever. And I've thought, wow, it's really great to make people feel important. But as you become more famous or more, you rise in your world, that importance means even more to someone. So it's made me realise, don't just be a dick where people come and say, oh, no, can I get a selfie? Make sure you ask them a question and give a little back, because people have done that to me and helped me to elevate. So it's made me want to give back a lot more. When he talks about his 6 secrets of success, and he says give back, I thought that was about giving money to charity or something. It's not. It's giving back to the human race. So I think he's honestly made me a much better person, much better leader, but probably zen me out a lot as far as just being in that moment of giving, Long answer, but that's I hadn't really thought about it, but that's usually where you get your best answers, right?
Yeah. Well, what I'd love to do now is open up to Wolfpack for questions that you have for Tony. So who would like to pop up their hand and ask Tony a question? Yes, Alan.
Tony, after hearing you speak this morning, it's clear that you're a man of contribution and what you really value what fitness brings to society, and you're not clearly just an entrepreneur for the sake of it. You actually really do believe in what fitness can bring. So, and with so many things going on, and in your life and all these different businesses, how do you prioritise things like, for me, for instance, I'm coming up to an opportunity where I can work with adolescents and victims of crime and bring fitness to them. I also value what fitness brings to people and mental health and stuff, but it may not be the best for my business in relation to income and stuff like that. How do you prioritise, and how have you prioritised things like that where you feel like you'd get that connection and that fulfilment from it, but juggling with, like I said, income and all that kind of stuff? Just basically, choosing the right path and what to chase.
My easy answer to that is I've never been driven by money, which is probably why I'm shit at some of the things I do, like with gyms and expos. I probably could have made more money if I was more financially conscious. So I may be the wrong person to answer this, because I think that if passion's your number one thing, that money will come at some stage. And for example, the first public speaking I ever did was to a group, and I only remember this because I did a show in the Alumbra Theatre in Bendigo a few weeks ago, which was the old Bendigo jail. And they've just spent these millions of dollars and turned it into this beautiful theatre. And my first ever public speaking thing, I was like 19, I was working in the gym, and there was a prison guard there. He said, can you come up and talk about health and fitness to the prisoners, because they're a bit lost and they need someone like you. And I was really, jacked up for a young guy, Just going to come and talk about bodybuilding and fitness. And I didn't stop and think, I'll have to cancel a client or take a time off work. I thought, what a great opportunity. And I went and did that. And that opened up a world of public speaking. Now, if I had gone, but what about the $20 an hour I just lost? I never would have gone. And there's been times where I've gone and worked, for example, next week, 3 weeks' time, I work backstage at Mr. Olympia doing all the interviews. I've never asked them, should I get paid for that? Because what that does for my profile, and like, I'm a bodybuilding kid, man, from a little country town. I get to stand there. Phil Heath waits for me. This is crazy. I couldn't have thought this shit up, because I've never been worried about that. So I think when you get an opportunity, you should take it and not even care about the money. If you can't pay your bills, then you've got to go, okay, I need to back off on the giving a little bit and work more on getting my bills paid. But you never know what opportunity might open up. When I, for example, I talked about Muscle TV. So when I had an opportunity to do that, I wanted to be a TV presenter all my life. I always wanted to be on TV. I still want to be an action movie star. It's like my secret dream, I never tell anyone. Right? And I don't know if it's too late or not, but I'm just keeping it open just in case, because I look like a badass, right? And there might be, I said to Arnold, when you do the next Expendables, think about it, right? And I've been drinking with Randy Couture, who's also in it. I'm Randy. And I met Stallone, hey Stallone. And I met Hulk Hogan, hey, when you need this. So I'm telling all of them. And I'm meeting with The Rock next month, so I'm going to say, brother. Anyway, beyond that, where was I with that? With Muscle TV. So they needed a host, and they didn't have any budget. And I said, I'll make it easy for you, I'll do it for free. They go, what? I go, I'll do it for free. And I did a whole season for free. And it took up so much time. And I remember at the time, my staff and people said, well, what are you doing that for? You've got to have time, we're going to get someone in for the counter. I go, because I'm going to put everyone in Doherty shirts and background, I'm going to brand, I'm going to get something out of it, but short term, don't worry about the money, because I wanted to be a TV presenter, and I couldn't afford at the time to go to, if there was a school or a university for TV presenters, I couldn't afford to rent the car space. I couldn't afford to park my car if I had a car, let alone be a TV presenter. So I did it for free. And then the next season, I'll do it for free again. And it became very successful. They gave me a little bit of money, but it was never a whole lot of money. Then I became the weights coach at the Carlton Football Club, which I loved all my life. And the pay was terrible. I had to go there 3 times a week, take time off from the gym. And it was when the club was broke, they didn't have a big budget. We were getting like 10 grand, and a new guy came in after us and got 300 because money became, but whatever. I never did it for the money. But what that did for my profile, and what that did for my media, and what that did for me running onto the MCG with the players, some stuff I never could have imagined. So I'd say, man, take your opportunities. Don't ever say no to anything. Who knows what it might lead to? And then if it's costing you money, back off. But hope that is a good answer.
Can you just repeat what your favourite book was?
Shantaram. It was by a Gregory David Roberts, I think. You nodded your head, yeah. It's about an Australian guy who was a heroin addict bank robber who broke out of prison and went to India and reinvented himself and became like a medic in the slums in Mumbai. And it's an incredible story of, it's a very spiritual book where he goes into the hills in Afghanistan as a freedom fighter. It's this crazy story. It's mostly a true story. And the way he writes, he talks about the lessons he learns from the elders in the hills and the people in the slums. It probably gave me a fascination of travel and some Indian stuff and all that. You read it? Amazing, huh? What a story, man. What a trip. It's just a really good book. I was going to say Arnold's biography. I thought it was too cliche, but as a book, I've never read a fiction book in my whole life. That one's probably a little bit fiction, but you know, it's this guy's biography. And it was a Melbourne guy, escaped from Pentridge. Yeah, Shantaram, Shantaram, A-M, yeah. Yeah, amazing.
One more question if we have it.
When you're talking about when you were doing the speaking for free on Muscle TV and then looking at putting Doherty's shirts and so forth in the background and so forth, combining the run for the kids with the Arnold Classic, how do you find that way of lateral thinking where you find that opportunity where a lot of us would just be focused solely on that event or getting that specific thing running? How do you have that, I don't want to call it foresight, but that thought of lateral thinking to be able to draw that in?
That's my skill, man. I don't know how I've got it. I've never thought about it, but I'm thinking all the time. I don't stop. And life's just taught me just what else is there, you know? It's just a way of thinking. It's a way of life, and I've never been any different. You know, I'm always just thinking beyond the square, and I'm always thinking psychology. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm doing this for free, but is there an angle? Is there something I could do to promote or to get the message to more people? Is there, even when I do my real talk, even though it's spontaneous and it's action and it's live, there's so much psychology goes into it. Even when I do this stuff, even when I do a talk, I'm thinking about, it's hard to describe. It's not really how do I think. I just say, if you don't think that way, open your mind up. Always just look beyond. Don't be driven just by the money and the aspect, okay, if I'm in this space, what else can I do? Like when I travel, for example, and I might be in Brazil. So I won't just go to all the top restaurants that we're eating at. I'll find out where the locals eat, and I'll find out what the locals do, and I'll get a day to myself and I'll buzz off somewhere else. So I just always just think, what else? What else? What else is there? Yeah, I wish I could give you a better answer, but I don't know. I'd probably have to be examined by a psychologist to find that out. Can you imagine that, the poor person doing that interview? Yeah, man, but I just think you've got to be, look, I've always been more of an opportunist than a planner. I think that's probably the best answer. That some people, they just plan and plan and plan. Well, life's going to kick you in the balls and go upside down, so don't over-plan anything, because you don't know. But if you're an opportunist and you're ready for every opportunity and you live in the moment, then you can just be free just to think, okay, what else, you know?
Final thoughts, Tony?
Like, for example, here's one. How many of you guys don't follow me on Instagram? Tony Doherty Oz, O-Z. There you go, I just got 10 new followers. You know, just little things like that. So, final thoughts. Oh, man. I could talk. This is the thing. Yeah, everyone's got something they can do. I've always... I was thinking about driving across here, you know. I was going to do a little story and then I didn't, so I shouldn't do stories while I drive, because I always get some ambulance driver or something mess with me go, you shouldn't be doing that when you drive. I just had a really good thought. Anyway, I was thinking driving over here that, you know, you've got to use what you've got. You've got to work out your point of difference and what your skill is. You know, like you hear about famous boxers, they say, yeah, my fists got me out of this situation I was in. My fist took me somewhere. Or a great soccer player, yeah, my feet took me to great heights. Or my ball skills or my reflexes. For me, it's been my voice. I've always had this ability to talk and to translate and to, even now I'm like the concierge of people. If people have a fallout, I can put them back together. If people haven't spoken for years, and I've done this with people in the bodybuilding organisation to bring them together and to build bridges and just to be able to talk and have some psychology of speech. So I was thinking about it today that you've got to kind of find out what your thing is and then get even better at it and to use it. So mine's always just been able to relate to people and to talk and to know what the temperature is in a room and to go in and to, you know, to execute or to back off or just to know that. So I think, back to your question, I think if you're in that space and you know who you are and what you've got, then you can just see more opportunities than anyone else may do. Final thoughts, Mark. Let's go back to what I talked about earlier. Just don't let other people rain on your shit. You know, like if you've got an idea and an ideal and a vision and a passion to do something, please don't let other people talk you down or talk you out of it, because you're just going to end up like them. And people often say, when I've done my relentless talks, the big question is, what's your greatest fear? Or why are you the way you are? And I've had to really think about that. And I'll tell you what it is. The only fear I have is regret. only fear I've got is getting old, and we're all going to die one day, and when you're on your deathbed or it happens suddenly, whatever, you'd hate to think, oh, gee, I wish I had have tried a bit harder, had have backed myself, had have had more self-belief, had have taken a risk. That to me, that's the scariest thought in the world, is to know that you wasted your life, because I'm not a, I don't know, is there anything else out there? I don't know. It's got religious, I don't want to get religious about it, but if there's nothing else, that means you've got one life. And you know, one of my real talk spots, I walk through a graveyard, and I always say, look at all these people, they're all dead. And everybody here died, but how many really lived? And I suggest it's in the single digits as a percentage. You know, that most people just fall into the trap of complacency. They play it safe because that's what society tells them they should do. Have security, have safety, you know, just be normal. And if that's not for you, then keep fighting. Otherwise, you're just going to get old and look back and go, oh yeah, I had my shot and I didn't take it. Take your chances. You know, even if it fails, doesn't matter. Because at least you go, well, at least I know. You know. So I think that don't hold back and don't be controlled by other people's thoughts and fears and inadequacies, because you know, they're everywhere.
And where can people continue to follow you?
Probably Instagram's easiest. Tony Doherty Oz. That's OZ. Tony Doherty, one word, Oz. And you can message me there. Don't message me on Facebook. I told you that the other day. Because I get messages on Snapchat, Instagram, text, email, phone, text, and Messenger and Insta. And I try and answer, but for some reason, Messenger on Facebook pisses me off. I don't know why.
I've deleted it off my phone, actually.
Yeah, Instagram's the easiest way to find me. And if I'm not, like, if we're not connected, it goes into another folder, but once a week I check that and get back to everyone. So, yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm a very public, open person. But yeah, I'd appreciate you following that, and if you enjoy it, spread the word. But there'll be something there for everyone, and it's free.
Amazing interview there with Tony Doherty. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Wolf's Den with Tony Doherty. Do check him out on Instagram. Let's give Tony a round of applause.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And stay tuned for our next episode with Andrew Locke. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and check us out, Enterprise Fitness, on Instagram. See you soon. It saddens me to see personal trainers not earn the income that they should rightfully earn because business is getting in their own way.
So there must be a better way of doing it. Have we all been guilty of doing this?
It isn't that they can't see the solution, it's just that they can't see the problem.
Wolfpack is for that trainer who wants to be that island of excellence that is surrounded by a sea of mediocrity. I've got a client that I pulled from my leads to put on, and I thought it'd be really cool if one of you guys sold it. So who wants to take the call?
Because there's a certain reward in seeing somebody change their life.
One of the most important things you can do all day is when someone walks through the door, say hello.
I'm more committed to your excellence and you're committed to your excellence.
I want you to remember the pain of being a spectator in your own life. So from training, nutrition, supplementation, to the delivery of the session, to programming, the goal with Wolfpack is to raise the standard of personal training worldwide.
Wolfpack is for the person who's got a goal and a desire to be not just successful at being a trainer, but being at the top of the game. That's what I think of the Wolfpack when I think of it. That's what I think is Mark's objective.
Like an artist or a sculpture, but their art is the human body, is wellness, is health. But you're here for a reason. Is that correct? Good. Mark moulds your body from being a broken down fucking wreck that can't move properly to being a machine of love and grace that can do shit.
Hi, I'm Mark and welcome to Wolfpack Online.